What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the Take 3 podcast. My name is Brandon, as always, joined by my co-host Alex. We're here on a Thursday evening to talk a little NFC South football. We just wrapped up the AFC South last week. If you haven't checked out that episode, go back and give it a listen. You know what I mean? Pretty shit division, but you got two teams up at the top that are going to battle it out. And this division, I mean, when you sit back and look at the NFC South, we got one clear top dog, obviously the Tampa Bay Bucs. It didn't look like that a couple months ago. If you go back to the winter when Tom Brady impromptu fake retired for a little bit of attention and came back so quick. Now the division is right back to where it was. Obviously, we know what the Falcons look like. The Carolina Panthers, I don't even think they know what they look like. We'll get into that. And then obviously the New Orleans Saints are coming in with Dennis Allen. It's going to be weird seeing them without Sean Payton on the sidelines. And how that will affect them. We'll get into that as well. But first off, how are you feeling on a Thursday and what's going on?
I'm feeling good. Ready to talk some football. NFC South is interesting. We got three out of the four teams that have new looks almost all around, right? And then one team that feels very dominant. I don't know, kind of an interesting division, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you got three teams that are kind of packed together that almost, I mean, you could make arguments for each of them being better than each other. You can make arguments for who's worse, who's not. We'll get into all that. I mean, we might as well start off, though, with the Atlanta Falcons. They finished 7-10 last year. I was actually surprised when I went back and looked at that. I was like, that team won 7 ball games last year. So I guess shout out Arthur Smith. Obviously, they had Matt Ryan playing quarterback last year. This year they come in, they're looking with Marcus Mariota, obviously drafted Desmond Ridder. They went Drake London in the first round, kind of surprised me a little bit. But I mean, so far what I've seen through training camp, he looks like a physical wide receiver that can kind of make plays on the outside. The only question is, can Marcus Mariota or potentially Desmond Ridder at some point get him the football, right? They still have Kyle Pitts going into year 2. He was a stud last year, just had issues finding touchdown catches. When we scroll down to the defense, there's honestly not much there, not a lot of movement. They still have Grady Jarrett. They have Lorenzo Carter. Deion Jones is there, but he's on the PUP list. There was kind of rumors maybe they'd move off of him to free up for about $14-15 million. And then obviously cornerback, they have Casey Hayward, not what he once was with the Chargers, and they still have AJ Terrell. He was pretty damn good last year. When I went through and looked, I believe he averaged catches against him, it was like 3.3 yards per catch, which is like the lowest since Darrelle Revis in 2010, something like that. It was a wild number. But yeah, I guess first question, I can get right into it with the Falcons. We can just get right into things. Does Desmond Ridder eventually play football games this season for the Falcons? And yeah, what do you make of the QB position in Atlanta going into Arthur Smith's second year?
Yeah, this Atlanta Falcons roster has a lot to be desired. Honestly, there's a few bright spots, some young guys I really like, but it's hard to really fall in love with this team. I think this is a team that's going to be vying for the number 1 pick. To be honest, I think this is a team that's going to lose more than it wins next year. And then if we go back to your question with the quarterback position, I do believe we see Desmond Ridder start at some point for this team. And I don't even think that's necessarily an indictment on Marcus Mariota. I think it's just an indictment on this roster as a whole, right? I'm not going to speak to what I really expect out of Marcus Mariota. It's hard. When he came in, I think it was a Monday night game where Carr got hurt at the beginning and he got to play last year. He looked all right, actually. He didn't look terrible. But backups tend to remind you why they're backups at certain points in time. So I fully expect Marcus Mariota to eventually go out there make mistakes. And I do think Desmond Ridder is going to eventually start football games for this Atlanta Falcons squad next year. And I think it's going to be more because the team's not very good and they want to see what they have with Desmond Ridder, right? If you can get some snaps for him, maybe he shows out and maybe you go into the offseason feeling like you got something, or you get, obviously he'll be on the roster next year and it's just one season, but maybe it's kind of clear right off the bat that he's not the guy. I think this is just one of those years for Atlanta where they're going to be testing out talent, and it's going to be a long season for the Falcons, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, any season you're going into, and I look at your depth chart and I see Marcus Mariota, obviously former number 2 pick, kind of weird shakeout with what happened with him in Tennessee. But yeah, I don't know. I think Desmond Ridder will touch the field at some point. I don't think it'll be quick, though. I just think Arthur Smith, I don't know, they're not in a rush. It doesn't feel like they kind of know what they have. I mean, the defense was like 31st last year. The defense isn't great. They got some pieces in the secondary. But other than that, as you said, they're going to be testing things out. And I don't think there's a rush to get Desmond Ridder on the field right away as maybe other teams would. So I expect, I don't know, back half, maybe the final 3 or 4 games, Desmond Ridder gets in there, you know what I mean, to get some reps in and build some chemistry with Drake London, build some chemistry with Kyle Pitts. But yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll be that bad. I think there's teams that are way farther off the deep end, like the Texans. I mean, I could look at potentially the Jets. Arthur Smith showed, I mean, even in year 1, to be able to win 7 ball games. But yeah, I don't like, nothing pops on paper. I mean, is Cordarrelle Patterson going to come out and do what he was doing last year? He was going a little bit crazy. We don't know. So yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with, it's really a testing talent year. See what you have in Drake London. Along with Kyle Pitts, and I do expect Ridder to kind of get in there the latter half of the season. The season will probably be wrapped up by the time he's touching the field, just to give him some reps heading into 2023. Yeah, because I think he will be obviously the guy in 2023. That's the reason they drafted him. He will at least get a fair shot, I would imagine. They won't go quarterback again unless they're like hard pressed, right? I mean, they could be crazy and be hard pressed and go after one of the guys at the top next year. I don't see it. So I don't know. I think they should go sooner, but I just don't think Arthur Smith will.
I'll say this: if they all of a sudden find themselves with like a top 3 draft pick, I think they could totally go quarterback and get one of the top guys. I know that's like not a lot of time or fair to Desmond Ridder to like really evaluate it, but we've seen it in the past with top picks, and then the team gets a top pick again, and they just give up on a dude fast. I totally think that's plausible here. I just don't know if Desmond Ridder's going to be good enough to start in the league. I have a lot of question marks around him personally.
For sure. I mean, I watched the Alabama game and I was like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if this is the guy. When they picked him, yeah, I could have the same question marks. I could say watching from just that Alabama game and how he kind of, I don't think he has the arm per se, but the guy's a competitor, so I can respect that. But yeah, I mean, Marcus Mariota, he'll eventually be able to pry something, or Arthur Smith will just get sick of it and say, and just give up on a Mariota. Question 2 that I have for the Falcons, it's another offensive one. Obviously, Kyle Pitts struggled to have touchdown catches last year. So do you think Arthur Smith will kind of lean into trying to get him the ball at all costs? You know, I mean, kind of do a little bit of force feeding to Kyle Pitts, as it seems he's a matchup nightmare, right? For linebackers, his speed, he has the speed of a wide receiver, size of a tight end. The guy is an athletic animal. So do you think Arthur Smith maybe makes that a point of emphasis to try to force feed Kyle Pitts the ball as maybe just a method to attempt to win ball games? It seemed like a smart thing to do coming off his rookie year.
That last line, you pretty much nailed it. It feels like a smart thing to do, right? Like get your stud receivers the ball. Drake London coming in with the big body. I feel like he's going to have a big part. But yeah, Kyle Pitts, second year in the system. He's one of the few returning guys, like one of the few returning weapons, really. He's a stud, right? A young stud. I feel like his number is going to be improved anyway, just going into year 2 based off opportunity and just, second year in the system. But I think it would be a smart thing to do for Arthur Smith to really force feed Kyle Pitts. And it'd be interesting to see teams zone in on it at one point and see how they adjust, see if they're capable of it. But I think if I'm the Falcons, then yeah, I want the ball in my playmakers' hands as much as possible. And I don't exactly have immense confidence in Cordarrelle Patterson or Damian Williams in the backfield. Drake London's a rookie. You got Zacchaeus and then Brian Edwards. So yeah, it feels like the Kyle Pitts show, or it feels like it should be at least.
Facts. I mean, he had 68 catches, 1,000 yards, only 1 touchdown. So I imagine at some point Arthur Smith is going to say, okay, how do we unlock Kyle Pitts in the red zone, right? How do we get him the ball in the red zone? Find a way, because it's just going to be that type of offense when you look at it as well. Like Marcus Mariota is not going to blow you away down the field. And then when you look at Desmond Ridder, if he takes over, he's not going to blow you away down the field. So it's got to be that, right? It's got to be, how do we activate and use Kyle Pitts more to really run this offense and have this offense take off, because I think it runs off of him because he's just that good, right? As I mentioned, he's a matchup nightmare. And that should be a real focal point. Last question really that I have, Falcons, it's another offensive one. The defense, I mean, we could sit here and talk all day. The defense, they're 31st. What's the key for the defense? Be better than 31st, right? We could sit there, talk about that. I just don't think it's worth really talking about. But this one, Drake London, do you expect him to make an instant impact? How do you think he'll stack up against, obviously, Jamison Williams was in this draft class, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson went. So, I mean, there was numerous other wide receivers that the Falcons could have went with at, I believe it was pick 8. Will Drake London show out and be an immediate impact on that offense?
I do think he's going to show out and have an immediate impact. I think he's going to have a pretty good rookie year. Now, to say he'll have a rookie season like a Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, I'm not going to go make a statement like that. But the thing with Drake London here, and I think he is probably the most likely to have the best rookie receiving season, is because of like the opportunity he has in front of him. The other guy, Chris Olave, in the division, we'll talk about later with the Saints, but all of a sudden he has some competition for snaps, and it just feels like this Atlanta Falcon team doesn't have a ton of talent, right? So like Drake London, I think, could be a focal point from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think he'll surely be a focal point. I don't know how much of an impact, because I don't know. I need to see what Marcus Mariota is doing and what just the scheme as a whole. I mean, what kind of offense are they going to run with Mariota compared to Matt Ryan? But yeah, you're spot on with the amount of reps and targets he should get. It should be the Kyle Pitts, Drake London show. I mean, when you got guys like Zacchaeus out there, Brian Edwards, Auden Tate, Geronimo Allison, Demir Bird, it's got to be find a way, even if we're just throwing balls up to Drake London and saying, go make a catch, like he will get plenty of targets, plenty of opportunities. I just don't know if that's the same thing as Kyle Pitts could be a question mark. I don't know if the guy throwing him the football, I don't know if I can trust that guy. I trust them too, but I don't know if I trust number 1 under center. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm right there with everything you said. And I think just by sheer volume, these dudes' numbers, like Pitts in London, is going to look real good at the end of the year. Whether or not that actually reflects they have a good season or not, I think the numbers are going to look nice.
For sure. So, I mean, that kind of wraps up the the Atlanta Falcons. It's really just to kind of see what, I mean, they'd be fun, right? Kyle Pitts, Drake London, fantasy wise, will kind of be fun to see that. Cordero Patterson, if he's able to do a little bit of what he did last year, he could even be fun. But when you look at the defense, I mean, their defense isn't very good. I see them just struggling to win games. They won 7 last year, I think, but that was with Matt Ryan, right? So you got to give them, I mean, a little bit more credible a quarterback than Marcus Mariota, and obviously than Desmond Ridder. I think when I went through their record, I had them 5-12, not as harsh as we will hear from you in about a minute or maybe even 30 seconds. But yeah, 5-12, I thought it's a good benchmark. Just questions surrounding the quarterback position in a league where it's ran by the quarterback. So yeah, I mean, I had them winning 5 ball games. I think it's respectable, and you'll be more watching what Drake London can do, what Kyle Pitts can do, and even if AJ Terrell can continue to build on his good second year. As I mentioned, the 3.3 yards per catch allowed. That's a pretty solid, but let's see with corners if he can take it into another year, right? Year 3, and get himself in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I like that. So don't hate me, Atlanta fans. I got y'all winning just one game, 1-16. I think I'm wrong about that, honestly. I know that sounds crazy. That's my own prediction. I do think I'm wrong. I think they squeak out closer to 4 to 6 wins, but I just look at the schedule. I have a hard time figuring out where those wins come from, right? Maybe they get a Cleveland win week 4 because there's no Watson and there's some chaos there, but even then I don't think so. But they figured out how to win 7 games last year, and on paper I wouldn't have said that would have happened. So like, I got them 1-16. I think I'm wrong, but if I'm Atlanta's sake, I'd want to go 1-16. I think they should be vying for that number 1 pick. They have so many holes on their roster. I don't think it's a bad thing to have a losing year because it seems likely they're going to, but 1-16 might be a little bit harsh, but that's where I got them.
I wish we could go back and have I don't even remember what last week with the Texans record prediction was. I don't think it was 1-16 though, if I'm not mistaken. It's just, yeah, I don't know. That's bold. I mean, Falcons fans, I'd say come for them. That is definitely a bold one to have them damn near worse than the Texans. And I'd almost say, yeah, I like Arthur Smith a little bit more than Lovie Smith, but that's crazy. I mean, we're on here for bold ones. That is definitely, I want to say that might be the boldest take in like Take 3 history, I'd say, out of any of these predictions, projections, spread picks. Like that's up there, but I mean, hey, we'll see if it works out. But let's jump into the next team on the docket in the NFC South. We got the Carolina Panthers, the train wreck Panthers, still coached by Matt Rule. We joked about this beforehand. I said he's literally already fired. He's coaching, but he's fired. He brings in Ben McAdoo to be the OC. I don't know how that works out. They went 5-12 last year, and they really stacked up O-line. When you look at, I don't even want to try to pronounce the guy's name at left tackle. I'm not even going to gun for it. NC State left tackle. They also signed Bradley Bozeman at center from Baltimore, and they went Austin Corbett from, they took him from the Rams. So what you really see is, I mean, I like to see if they build up the trenches a little bit. They still bring back DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall. They still have Robbie Anderson, hoping he can kind of channel some of 2 years ago. You know, I mean, he kind of had a down year last year. Obviously, the big news in the room, they have Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, the trade for Baker Mayfield. I personally don't think that upgrades the QB room. We'll get into that. Christian McCaffrey's still there. And then defense, I mean, on paper, I like Brian Burns, Derek Brown out of Auburn. They got Matt Ioannidis from the Commanders, Yetter Gross-Matos. They have pieces on defense that I like. JC Horn coming back, Dante Jackson's. I mean, what do you see when you look at the Panthers? I kind of on paper, now that I'm looking at the roster more, I like it. But they're another team at the QB position when I don't trust the QB, and I sure as hell don't trust the coach. I don't know how much I can bet on them.
Yeah, this Carolina Panthers team is one of the hardest to predict going into this season. I actually like their roster on paper quite a bit, like you were mentioning. I love their weapons offensively. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, of course, Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, there's the big question, is McCaffrey actually going to stay on the field? He played 7 games last year, 3 games before that. So we haven't seen him play 16 games since 2019, right? Which for NFL football, that feels like forever ago. So that definitely does make me nervous. And I like some of the pieces on the defensive side. I'm not crazy about the quarterbacks. I don't know how I feel about Matt Rule. I don't really like Ben McAdoo. I certainly believe Matt Rule makes it through this season, but I think the only way he's coaching the Panthers next year is if they at least have a wild card spot. And I think on paper they have the talent to do it. I don't think they will do it. I just have a hard time putting faith into this offense. And to me, Baker Mayfield is definitely an upgrade over Sam Darnold. I think there's layers to this, though, right? I'm not even confident that Baker will start week 1. One, he has incentives in his actual contract saying he needs to play at least 70 or 75% of the snaps for certain bonuses. So that could definitely be a incentive for the franchise not to start Sam Darnold the first month or month and a half, not to mention they put so much money into Sam Darnold. He's been in Matt Rule's system for a year already. So I honestly feel like the Panthers are going to do the stupid decision, have Sam Darnold start like the first month, and then it's by halfway through the year, Baker Mayfield is going to be starting anyway. But I like this team on paper. I got too much uncertainty about the quarterback position. I do believe Baker's an upgrade, but I don't think Baker's that guy at all, right? I think he's an average starting quarterback in the league. Like, I think he should be one of the 32 guys, maybe guy 18 through 32, somewhere in there. But it's just, I don't know. This Panthers team is really interesting because, like, in theory, if they get good quarterback play, they could be a pretty good team, but that's a big if.
Yeah. I mean, you basically already jumped into it, the QB question. I'm just the opposite. I think, I mean, they went out and traded for Baker Mayfield. It would look completely foolish of them to not only whiff on finding a way to get Deshaun Watson to Carolina somehow. Obviously, he's looking at, honestly, if the NFL brings down the hammer, at missing this year as well. So we won't even get into that. But I just think they went that far down the road of trading for Baker Mayfield that he's going to play week 1. I mean, I think it'll be the reverse. Like, I think he'll at least play the first half of the year, and then if he shits the bed like I expect him to, because he's not very good and he has a gigantic ego, that they'll pull the plug, right? Because as you mentioned, the incentives, they're just going to yank it, right? They're not going to pay him. They don't want to give him the extra money, but they made the trade. They gave up the pick. They're kind of forced into it. And I mean, they saw the Sam Darnold experiment last year, right? Everybody got baited into the first 3 games when I think it was Texans and Jets for 2 of the 3. I kept saying, let's see when Sam Darnold plays a real football club, right? Like,
it was Dallas that kicked the shit out of him week 4.
Yeah, he faced a real football club, and we were like, oh shit, dude, there's the same Sam Darnold that we expect. So, I mean, this QB room, I said it beforehand and I'll say it now. They have 2 of the same guy, just one guy is shorter. I watched a clip of Baker Mayfield he throws off the back foot. He did it in training camp, threw the ball about 2 yards directly to his own linebacker, which would have been a pick six if you're on the field on Sunday or if you're on Thursday or Monday. Any way you put it, it's a pick six. I just don't think they made any upgrade. Baker Mayfield could be a little bit worse because he has the ego. I mean, I don't think he's a hard worker. I think he expects to just be given everything just because of his name and because he ran around the Ohio State field with a Sooners flag and planted it in midfield. And it's, I mean, buddy, it's year 4. Was it year 4, year 5 in the NFL? Like, and I've seen no improvement. I've seen him arguably get worse, got ran out of Cleveland, and he was supposed to be the guy, right? The savior of Cleveland, and he just couldn't do it. And then poor Sam Darnold. I mean, he's not the guy either. So maybe we get to see Matt Corral. You know, I mean, we didn't really talk about Matt Corral. I'd be excited to see him get some reps instead of these two bums. But I don't think they made an upgrade at quarterback. I think they whiffed the offseason completely. I could argue that instead of getting Baker Mayfield, they would have been better off going to getting Jimmy G, who can probably take care of the football a little bit better. You know, I mean, if you get a healthy season out of McCaffrey, you can run him, you build up your O-line, right? And then you have weapons around. That would have been the move for me. But obviously, the front office isn't exactly smart. The coach isn't very good. So, yeah, I don't think they upgraded. I guess on paper, I'll say 0.1. Yeah, they upgraded 0.1 with Baker Mayfield. But, yeah, not really. Push, they're both bad. And that's where I'm at on their quarterbacks.
I can't believe you got me defending Baker Mayfield a little bit. I don't like Baker Mayfield. I agree with the ego thing and like a lot of the points actually. I just feel like there is definitely a gap between Baker and Sam. I think Baker's coming with a chip on his shoulder. And to your point with the Jimmy Garoppolo, I would take Jimmy Garoppolo over both of those guys. He wins football games more. None of them are very good. But I think Jimmy G fits systems much better. But here's the thing, right? If you're the Panthers, like Baker Mayfield literally was willing to pay to get out of Cleveland to just get away from that mess of everything it turned into, right? So like that's a huge incentive for Carolina to get Baker instead of like a Jimmy G. Like Jimmy G, they'd probably have to trade some kind of real asset to get Baker Mayfield. That was not the case at all. But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and like boast Baker Mayfield up because I'm not like a big fan of his, but like I do got to push back a little bit. I do think he's better than Sam Darnold.
It's each their own. I mean, I don't think they would have to give up a real asset. We're watching Jimmy G sit back and nobody needs him anymore, right? We watched that kind of market. If you don't go and get a quarterback and you're sitting here end of July, I think he got cleared to throw. What would the value be right now? It could have arguably been the same or less than Baker Mayfield with less of an ego. So I said, I'll give 0.1. I'll give Baker a 0.1, but I mean, we'll see. I mean, he'll come out week 1, throw the ball off the back foot. He won't be able to see over the O-line. He'll blame somebody. He'll slam his helmet. He'll do, what were the commercials? Another progressive commercial, this time in Carolina's stadium where he's moving out and moving in. I don't know. I mean, he was good. Yeah, good for business. He'll sell some jerseys, make some commercials, but I just don't see it. I don't think they made really any upgrades. You know what I mean?
I definitely agree that he'll blame somebody at some point.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
That's the big problem. It's like when is it Baker Mayfield's? When is it his fault? Right? He's just gonna do anything but blame himself or work harder, and that's what we've seen.
Very last point on the Baker thing. If there was any point in time where he was going to work harder and prove it, anybody wrong in the NFL, it's right now this season after the debacle of that Brown season. He's got the chip on his shoulder. Everything I'm saying probably means nothing, right? Because they're probably going to go out and lose football games still. But I'm just saying if there was any point in time for his career to where he would do it, it would be now.
Yeah. I don't know how much of a chip, this chip on the shoulder thing. I think he has a chip on his shoulder for week 1 and he's going to get his ass busted. And then the chip broke. I mean, we saw when he got traded, Robbie Anderson literally said, no, please. Like, so, I mean,
Sam Darnold's his guy, dude.
It's what I'm saying. So, I mean, you got Robbie who, Sam Darnold had like 7 touchdowns and 13 picks. And he's like, please don't get Baker Mayfield. Like the guy's annoying as shit and he sucks. But it's simple as that. Let's move over. Is Christian McCaffrey going to play more than 2 games this year? Like the guy, he was such a beast, obviously, but they kind of used him up. And now it seems like he's literally made of glass. He plays 3 games, gets the same injuries over and over. Are we kind of watching? I don't want to say the end of the run of McCaffrey. I mean, he's obviously still an asset, but can he stay healthy? Like that's the big question, because they need him to, with the quarterback play, like they need him to stay healthy to be as usable as possible in any way in that offense.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey has such a heavy workload. We saw it last year. Like that's when this team really spiraled and like offensively couldn't get anything going. They were never as good as their beginning of the season record indicated, but they weren't as bad as they really were if they had Christian McCaffrey. I'm gonna say he can stay healthy because I'm rooting for the guy, and he's only like 25 or 26 years old. I definitely think he has two more really good healthy years in him. Here's my thing: is the offensive staff of the Panthers going to use him less than 30 times a game? Like, I love it for fantasy purposes, but the man doesn't have to touch the rock 30 plus times every single football game. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. You need him for the full year. So to me, I'm rooting for him. I'm gonna go positive here, say he can stay healthy, but like the offensive coaching staff needs to just spread the ball around more. They cannot have the man touch the ball 25 to 35 times every single week.
Yeah, I mean, the problem for Christian McCaffrey is he's like the Derrick Henry role, where he is the engine of the offense, but he's not built like Derrick Henry. He's a 5'11" white dude that I mean, he's just not built like a tank, right? So unfortunately for him, I mean, I think he will definitely play more. Would he play 3? Like, he's going to be healthier than he was in previous years. I mean, I see 10 to 12, maybe 13 ball games, but I just think the amount, they're not going to change it up, right? Like, Matt Rule knows this is the end of the
Probably
run.
not.
Yeah, Matt Rule knows it's the end of the run. Ben McAdoo sucks, and he kind of knows, shit, if Rule gets fired, I'm gone too. I don't want to go look for another job. So they're going to run Christian McCaffrey, pass it to Christian McCaffrey. He's just the engine that makes that offense run smoothly. And eventually one of the pistons will fire wrong, and the engine will stop, right? So it sucks, because I love watching Christian McCaffrey because the guy's a beast. But I mean, when you see their offseason moves, when they go out, draft a left tackle in the top 10, they go out and get Bradley Bozeman and get Austin Corbett. You see them building the trenches up, right, to probably run him just as much as they did in the past, if not more, with these two quarterbacks. So I don't think the usage goes down just because the desperation out of Matt Rule and that group. I mean, my last question, because you put the Falcons at 1-16. My last question was really, are the Panthers that far behind the other kind of teams? That I have all these last 3 teams, the Falcons, Panthers, and Saints, kind of bunched together. I have the Saints a little bit out ahead of both of those, just because I like that organization and their quarterback. Honestly, it's weird to say, for Jameis a little bit better, but so I mean, I'll say this: can the Panthers shock us all, and will they get a wild card berth? Will they save Matt Rule's job, or will Matt Rule be packing his bags? And what record do you have for the Panthers this year?
I think they can, honestly. I look at the talent on paper, the improvement to the offensive line. I still like their D line. I like some of their secondary. I like their weapons, like I said. Baker has to not make mistakes, really. It's not about him being great or anything. It's about him not making mistakes. I think the ceiling for this team is a wild card spot. Do I think they will do it? No, I don't, honestly. I think the Saints are a better team. We'll talk about that in a second. And I think the Bucs are obviously a better team. And the NFC is so damn stacked. It's really hard to even pick just 7 teams to make the playoffs right now. And for those reasons, I have the Panthers finishing 6-11. I think they struggle a little bit, especially down the stretch still. I think Matt Rule is going to end up being fired. And I mean, it's just one of those things, right? That's why I said at the beginning, I think this is one of the more interesting teams. I think Carolina's season could legitimately go in both directions, but because I feel so many variables have to go correctly in the Panthers' favor for them to get the wild card spot, it just does not seem likely. I got them finishing 6-11, third in the division.
Yeah, for sure. I don't see them. No way in hell. I mean, I just sat here for 20 minutes and trash Baker Mayfield, said Sam Darnold sucks, said McCaffrey won't be able to hold up because they're going to overuse him, and said I hope Matt Corral gets to play some ball games. Said no, I had them winning 5 games. I just think by mid-year, towards the end of the year, the team is going to be finished with Matt Rule. And just not care to play for him. I mean, I like the moves they made up front going forward in the next year for the next coach. Obviously, I love DJ Moore. Robbie Anderson, if he can get the juice back, is another good piece along with Terrace Marshall. And then as you hit on the defense, I really like their defensive pieces with Brian Burns, Derek Brown, what they have up front, Shaq Thompson if he's off the PUP list. And then I like J.C. Horn and Dante Jackson as the corners, but the quarterbacks suck. The coach sucks. So it is what it is. I mean, I don't think on paper, if you blank out who's the coaches and the quarterbacks and you just look at the other pieces, yeah, I could say this team makes a wild card run. But I think, they're just going to give up on Matt Rule. So I have them at 5-12 on the year.
I will say this: if you're the Panthers, right? Let's say everything goes to shit this year, you give up on your quarterback and coaches. There's still a lot to be excited for if you get the right coach in there next time. Because there's just so many good pieces on this roster, and who knows what happens to quarterbacks. The quarterback carousel is weird, so I don't know. Crazier things have happened.
For sure. I mean, they have enough talent to be interesting. If they have another bad year, get another top pick, what they would do with that pick. Will they try to, the owner seems like crazy, like he wants to win.
Yeah, win now.
At all costs. Yes. I mean, you look at the roster, if you get the right guy coaching them and throwing the football, you could make, it'd be tough with Tom Brady in your division to say you're going to make a push for a Super Bowl or a conference title game. But I like what they have going. So it'd be interesting if they have another down year, what they'll do with that pick in the top 10. All right. Well, let's move on to, as we already alluded to, the New Orleans Saints, now coached by Dennis Allen, Mr. 8-28 himself. Sean Payton no more. He retired probably for a year. Let's be honest. That guy's kind of a scumbag too. He retired. He's going to be the coach of the Cowboys next year. I think I said it last year. I guarantee it. I will put money on it that Sean Payton gets bored and he's the Cowboys coach, but that doesn't matter. We're talking about the Saints. They went 9-8 last year, narrowly missed the playoffs. They come in this year. Obviously, Jameis Winston should be back. Tough knee injury. He was actually, I shit on him so much last year, but he was fairly efficient. I kind of really liked what Sean Payton did, where he didn't put too much in Jameis's hands. He used that running game and just allowed Jameis to basically game manage, and it seemed to work out. Can we trust that Pete Carmichael is going to do the same thing with no Sean Payton in the building? I don't know. Michael Thomas seems like he wants to play football this year, so he's back at a training camp. They brought in Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave. Obviously, they drafted. The big void on their O-line, though, they lost their left tackle, Teron Armstead. He got the bag from the Dolphins, so that's a big one, right? You got a quarterback coming off a major knee injury, and then his blind side, you could have either James Hurst or Trevor Penning, who just this week started 3 fights, 3 straight days, 3 fights, and got suspended from training camp for a day. So that's always that's fun. Up front as well. I mean, they kind of got decimated by injuries last year, but they come back with Andrews Pete, Eric McCoy, and Cesar Ruiz, and then Ryan Ramczyk at right tackle. So they got a pretty solid core if they can stay healthy, right? That's always a key up front because O-line depth is obviously limited in the league. So keeping those guys healthy. And then Alvin Kamara, obviously his legal situation. If you got a good legal team, what they'll do is they'll push it off. So it's looking like he's going to play out of the gates. And he got whatever he's dealing with. The NFL is looking to suspend him at least 6 games. That got pushed off for like 2 months. Defense, little old. Cameron Jordan, David Onyemata. They have Marcus Davenport, Pete Werner, Demario Davis. But then you look, they went up, got Marcus May, safety, and then Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, comes back home to replace the Marcus Williams role. And then obviously Marshawn Lattimore and CJ Gardner-Johnson. So, I mean, on paper, real quick, what do you think of this New Orleans Saints team? You were a big backer of the Saints last year. You were on the Jameis Winston wagon. Well, now one piece of the wagon with Sean Payton out of it. Are you still that much leaning into them heading into this year?
Yeah, so I still really like this New Orleans Saints team. If we had the coaching staff of last year, so basically if Sean Payton was still there, I would pick this team to make the playoffs with confidence. I really like this roster on paper. Now, there are some assumptions going into this, assuming Alvin Kamara is going to be ready to go from the beginning. We're assuming Michael Thomas is still very good at football. He hasn't been on the field in a while. You add Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, still really like this offensive line. Armstead, no way to sugarcoat it, is a big loss. But I just really like this team on paper. The things that really scares me is Dennis Allen as head coach and Pete Carmichael. I think the idea from the New Orleans front office is to make this transition basically a non-transition, right? You remove Sean Payton, but you keep most of the staff and you just elevate someone. It was Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael's. I mean, so then you want to put some faith in Pete Carmichael and the offense staying the same. He's been the coordinator since 2009, but we all know that's a Sean Payton offense and a Sean Payton unit. So it's like, I really like this team on paper. I do not like the coaching staff at all. And to me, that's the biggest drawback for this roster. I'm still a Jameis guy. I think he'll be ready to go on week 1. I want to be transparent. I rooted for him last year. I picked him to be good, but I thought it would be more of him like slinging the rock, and it was more of a controlled offense. Sean Payton didn't let him sling it loose, so I was only partially correct. But, I mean, I really like this team. I just have such a hard time getting behind this coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you see a head coach 8-28 on there, and then Pete Carmichael, who, unless Sean Payton either one left the playbook behind in the play chart and all the everything behind for him, or if Sean Payton's going to secretly sit in a booth and call the game for the guy, I really can't get on the Pete Carmichael train just because I don't know. And obviously Dennis Allen, I mean, I'll give him the benefit of that of this. It's probably the most talented roster that, I mean, that he will coach. The Raiders teams weren't very good. And when you get this kind of setup coming off of the Sean Payton era, you have more chance to succeed. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to really know what Jameis Winston's going to be coming off a major knee injury, how long Alvin Kamara is going to be around, if at some point his legal issues, I mean, they get it solved and then he gets suspended 6 games. And, but I mean, I like what they have on the fray, right? Michael Thomas, as you said, we're going to assume that he's still good at football. I've seen a couple training camp clips, seemed like the guy can still run routes. It seemed like he didn't like Sean Payton. There was a disconnect there. So, I mean, Chris Olave, I mean, they just stack up, and then the defense still has enough there. Somebody in Discord said they're going to be a bottom defense. I don't see it, right? Because Dennis Allen, one thing that he's going to do is he's going to coach up his defense. So, that the defense is going to be, they're going to come ready every week. But I just don't know about kind of the coaching staff. And I don't know if the offense is going to be a carbon copy of what we saw last year, which seemed to work very well with Jameis, kind of limiting his decision making and making it easy on him. And that's kind of really my first question is, what does Jameis Winston look like out of the Sean Payton offense? It's kind of, we can go for really 2 questions in one, because then can the O-line keep him protected? Losing the blindside guy can kind of mess with your head if you don't find chemistry with your left tackle, because that's a big part of football. It's kind of weird that Ryan Ramczyk will never he's going to stay at right tackle. Often you see guys that play that right tackle position. You watched Orlando Brown in Baltimore. He wanted to be the left tackle, Obviously they had Ronnie Staley, so he wanted out and goes to Kansas City and needs the left tackle. And Ryan Ramczyk is kind of just, he's comfortable being the right tackle. So can they keep Jameis protected? And what does Jameis look like now out of the Sean Payton scheme? Is it going to be the same scheme? Will he turn the ball over more? What do you think?
I think we're going to see a good season from Jameis. I'm not going to go out and say phenomenal or anything. He has to continue to take care of the football, right? He played 7 games. He had 14 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That's really what's important for Jameis. They have enough weapons all around. To the point of the offensive line, once again, cannot sugarcoat losing Armstead, that he's a stud. But the unit is still a really strong unit as a whole. I still really like this offensive line. So that's really not what I'm worried about. To me, I'm worried about what is the offense actually going to look like, and will Jameis continue to protect the football, with that second point being the largest one by far. I'm putting faith in Jameis. He got his LASIK. He can see. He seems more mature as a football player. Obviously, he's grown from his Tampa Bay days. unfortunate ending last year with the ACL, but I'm going to continue to ride the Jameis Winston bandwagon. I'm going to say that he continues to protect the football. And I mean, this Saints team on paper, I love them. I just, man, the coaching staff makes me just so nervous.
Facts. So I'm going to kind of do a flip from what I did last year. I don't think he's going to be like 14-3 good. Like, I don't think he's going to keep up with that ridiculous trend, but I do think, I mean, we've kind of seen since he was very immature at Florida State, he was very immature when he kind of came out and he went to Tampa Bay. Probably wasn't the best, but I think, as you said, he's kind of maturing and it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of, I don't want to say wearing, but I'm getting used to it. He seems like a guy that is going in the other direction from a Baker Mayfield that continues to be immature. Seems like Jameis works on his game and he's kind of grown into an adult. We've seen him develop, at least. I guess he didn't really develop in Tampa. And yes, I think he is going to have a better year than I projected him for what he was going to do last year. I said he's going to be a turnover machine last year and just sling the ball to the other team. But so yeah, I'm going to put a little bit of stock into Jameis heading in this year. I just think he's maturing as a quarterback, maturing as a person, and I kind of like where he's trending. But I don't. I think the turnovers will be a little bit up from last year, just because the coaching staff. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think they're going to run the same offense to a T. Right. I don't think it's going to be. I think it'll look a little bit different without Sean Payton there.
I think we would agree that Jameis is an above average starter, like a middle tier quarterback, right? Not an elite guy. And I think he has a chance to be like by far and away the best quarterback in that middle tier.
Yeah, I think he's kind of approaching a range where he's like underappreciated or undervalued, and he doesn't really get talked about that much. But I mean, the arm talents there was kind of just, I mean, the maturity concerns. He wasn't very mature. The turning the ball over, those kind of go together when he's maturing as a quarterback. So yeah, I'd say definitely middle tier. I think he's kind of undervalued, underappreciated, even by me last year. I kind of shit on him and said he was going to turn the ball over a ton. He proved me wrong, played smart in the opportunities and the in the system that Sean Payton put forward, and he had no issues doing it, right? So I mean, if you look at Dennis Allen, try to replicate that, right? Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I don't think it'll be the same offense as a whole. So I think a little bit more turnovers, but I don't think it's going to be like, I don't think it's going to be back to the Tampa Bay days where we're throwing 30 interceptions and going absolutely ape shit with turnovers.
I got a kind of a random question for this, since we keep talking about this offensive system. With the departure of Sean Payton, do you think we're going to see less Taysom Hill, like gadget plays, red zone runs, and everything? I think it's going to be less, because like Sean Payton seemed to really love that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Yeah, I think so. It'll be less, because Sean Payton was literally the only reason that guy was still around. I think if there's any other coach, like, that guy doesn't get the contracts that he was getting, like that shit was just bogus. So yeah, I think way less Taysom Hill. Like, yeah, the slurp fest between him and Sean Payton is over. Yeah, I don't think we really have to worry that much about Taysom Hill anymore. But I just think there'll be more throws, because when you go out and you draft a receiver like Olave that high, you put stock and go out and get Jarvis Landry. And obviously Michael Thomas coming back. You got guys that are going to command targets and want the offense revolving around them. So I don't think they'll be and this coaching staff, I mean, they're not Sean Payton. They don't command, like, I don't think Dennis Allen commands a room like Sean Payton. They kind of to deal with egos on the offensive side like that. So I think it'll be more throws, which leads to more turnovers in the end, but I don't think crazy amount. But yeah, the Taysom Hill slurp fest is done. Last question, Saints. Can Dennis Allen actually be a coach in this league? Like, can he surprise us all and actually do something? The 8-28 career record, that is what everybody's talking about, was kind of the laughing stock. Obviously, Brian Flores was one of the final candidates, I believe, with the Saints. He was rumored to maybe get that. Obviously, his kind of lawsuit and his fallout with the Dolphins might have affected that. But can Dennis Allen actually coach ball games, or is this shit going to hit the fan quick?
I'm going to go and say that he will show he can coach ball games this year. And that is not because I like Dennis Allen. It's because I really like this roster. I think this roster is too damn good to not win more games than they lose, right? I think it's going to be close. And I mean, if Dennis Allen can't do it, I think he has a short leash, right? Like, if he can't do it right off the bat with this roster, I think he's already gone. The roster is just too damn talented.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he'll be better in the 8-28, as I mentioned off the rip. It's probably the most talent on a roster that he's had a shot to coach. The Raiders teams weren't very good, and his defense has been pretty damn good in New Orleans, even when he was on Sean Payton's staff. So I think smooth transition plus the amount of talent will be good for him to kind of walk in. I mean, it's a good setup when you kind of take over, similar to another coach. I mean, we'll get into Todd Bowles with Tampa Bay Bucs, but they both walk into, they're both Todd Bowles obviously failed with the Jets as his first head coaching job. And then Bruce Arians kind of set him up with a squad, right? So when you give a coach a decent amount of talent to come in with, he's obviously, I think the output will be better, but I don't know if it'll be like enough. I don't know if they'll be amazing. Obviously, I mean, I might as well just drop it. The record, I had the Saints going 8-9. I could see it going either way, 9-8, 8-9, right in that thing, just because I'm not fully on the Dennis Allen wagon, and I just don't know. I gotta see some ball games. I gotta see Jameis coming back fully from that from the knee injury. Got to see the O-line, and can the team stay healthy? They had like the most injuries in the league last year. Them and the Ravens got decimated injury wise, but 8-9 seems like it's a good conservative point for them, right? They could go either way. They could maybe stretch it out to 10 games. But Dennis Allen, he will do a little bit better than his 8-28 run. He will win as many ball games as he has in his career in 1 year. So,
Yeah, I'm with you on that last part. I went with the 9-8 route instead of 8-9. I got them 9-8. I think they have a pretty tough schedule. I think they're going to play quite a few really close games. Honestly, 9-8. I think they could honestly win 10 or 11 games, but once again, things have to go right for them, right? And I'm going 9-8, and I think they barely miss the wild card spot simply because there's too many good NFC teams, and there's going to be at least two probably playoff caliber teams that are going to be left out of the playoffs this year. There's just not enough spots, and I think New Orleans is going to be one of those playoff caliber teams that is just slightly left out, and I think it comes down to coaching.
facts. Yeah, it's hard to say in close ball games that Pete Carmichael, I mean, you need a big drive. Is Pete Carmichael going to dial up the same plays that Sean Payton was able to? We don't know. Pete Carmichael might shock us all, but I mean, that's the unknown. So I think both of our records are kind of good conservative bench points for this team. I like what they have on the roster. I'm a flip flop, obviously, on Jameis from last year. And I mean, we'll see. Can they continue to dominate Tom Brady? That's really the question. They beat the piss out of Tom Brady every time, at least in the regular season. Can they continue to do that? I mean, if they steal one of those games, then they're probably in my record, they're at least a 9-win squad if they steal one of those.
I got them splitting, right? And like, even if they steal, though, like, my thing with the Saints is like, if you squeeze them into the playoffs, who are you taking out? And like,
Facts.
There's no clear answer.
Facts. It's tough with the NFC. Yeah, with the NFC West, obviously, probably having two, and then you could potentially argue maybe, I don't know, NFC East, Eagles, Cowboys could have two. So it's tough to mock. But I mean, let's keep it moving. The last team, the defending NFC South champions, obviously they didn't want to go out the way they did last year, losing that crazy divisional round game to the Rams. That shit was nuts. But I mean, it kind of happens. They come in this year. Todd Bowles, obviously, I mentioned previously, he takes over. Bruce Arians, one of the bigger scumbags in the league, overrated head coach. The guy so overrated. Like, I was that was the only reason, like, I was pissed he got a ring, because I'm not a big Bruce Arians guy. But I do like Bowles. I do like Leftwich. I mean, they're left in good hands in Tampa Bay. And obviously, you're always left in good hands when 45-year-old Tom Brady says, I'm going to come out of retirement. I'm not done. He just loves football, I guess. So Tom Brady's obviously back. O-line, they have Shaq Mason. They lost Alex Kappa, Ali Marpet left guard. He retired, so they kind of have some shuffling. And then obviously last week, Ryan Jensen, major knee injury. They don't know how long he is going to miss. So I mean, it could potentially be this season. It could he could come back maybe late playoff time. But then we were talking about beforehand, what is when you sit out for 4 months and then your first game back, they say, okay, you're going to go stop Aaron Donald right up the middle, and he bull rushes you and throws you 15 yards into Tom Brady. Yeah, good luck dealing with that. But obviously wide receiver as well, they went out and got Julio Jones. That should be interesting to see how that works out, because Chris Godwin, obviously week 15, his own knee injury. So he's kind of working his way back. Todd Bowles said he's making progress, but he's not where he needs to be at. That sounds like he's going to at least miss the start of the season, even though he's not on the PUP list. And then Mike Evans is there as well. Defense, most of the same stuff. They got Vita Vea. They added Akeem Hicks up the middle. And they still have Devin White, Levante David looking to kind of make a comeback year. Obviously, he had a foot injury, but it was, I believe, he had 92 tackles last year. It was like his first year under 100 tackles in a long time. Shaquille Barrett coming off the edge. And then the secondary, can the secondary be better? I imagine they will. Carlton Davis, Antoine Winfield, Jamel Dean, and Sean Murphy-Bunting. They're looking to come out and do some big things. So, I mean, what do you see when you look at Tampa Bay Bucs? Obviously, most people, I mean, Tom Brady comes back, damn near show him at least into the divisional round, if not NFC title, Super Bowl. What do you see looking at the Bucs?
Yeah, I think it's another season where Tom Brady's going to have a deep playoff run. I look at this Bucs roster and they're loaded like top to bottom. Obviously, some of the offensive line switching or swapping makes me nervous. The Ryan Jensen loss cannot be stated lightly. That's a big deal. Like you said, even if he does come back and play this year, how good are you after not playing competitive football for a long time? So those definitely worry me. But like, if it was any other quarterback, I would put more stock into it. Like this is not like sound analysis, other than like how many times have we seen Tom Brady go into a season where we felt the offensive line was not to its standard? It happened a few times, and then Tom Brady knows how to just get the ball out of his hands so fast and just run offense so efficiently that I'm less worried about it for this Bucs team, simply because they have such a phenomenal quarterback under center. But I mean, the sky's the limit for this Bucs team. That defense is very good. I think the secondary will be better this year because they got really beat up for the first half of the season last year. And I think that plays a big part. Obviously, if they stay healthy on the field, I think it's really good. I like the defensive additions. And then Chris Godwin, I don't expect to play the first 4 to 6 weeks. I think Russell Gage will step right in and not miss a beat with Tom Brady. I think they'll be really good. And I'm so interested to see how Julio does. I mean, he did not have a great year with the Titans last year. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but there was a different point in time when another really good Hall of Fame receiver, people were saying he's kind of washed up. Randy Moss got traded to New England, and then he got paired with Tom Brady. He had a hell of a year. I'm not saying Julio is going to do the same thing, but I do expect Julio to remind people that he's Julio this year.
Yeah, facts. I mean, the big thing is Julio just has to stay healthy. He's another guy kind of similar into the Christian McCaffrey territory, where they're like made of glass and they find ways to just get hurt. But yeah, I mean, that's fascinating when you can add a guy with potentially or with that much talent. I mean, his career coming in there, and then you pair him alongside Mike Evans, Chris Godwin when he's back, and you look at Russell Gage as your fourth guy, and then you still have Scotty Miller down there as well. I mean, it's like the Bucs, they just said, okay, let's go out and get every wide receiver we possibly can, and we'll run it and we'll have fun. But I mean, yeah, that it really is. The first question with the Bucs is, how do they deal with the Ryan Jensen injury? And I mean, it's tough when you're looking at teams you got to go up against with front fours. And the big thing that kind of plagued, it's crazy to say plagued the guy that's won that many Super Bowls, and that's good, but it's pressure straight up the middle. Tom Brady's not a fan of that. And we saw it with the Giants in the Super Bowl. If you're able to get pressure up the middle and kind of affect his rhythm, it is an issue. So, I mean, how do they deal with that? Does Byron, I guess I can also pair it into my second question, is how, with Bruce Arians completely out of the picture now, does Byron Leftwich kind of try to change up the offense a little bit? Does he make some switches? Is it more of him sitting down with Tom Brady and them kind of building the game plan? Because as we heard, like last year and the past 2 years, kind of Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady would go and they'd work on things and kind of try to tweak the game plan. And then, scumbag Arians would just burn it up. And, I mean, it's just typical. It's hard to like a guy like Bruce Arians. The guy is just a loser. But I mean, so yeah, what do you see? Does Byron Leftwich try to change it up? And I mean, how do they try to mask? Because that's a big hole in the middle when you're going to face teams that have, man, I forget the guy's name in Kansas City. Chris Jones up the middle. I know they played the Chiefs, so like you're gonna have to face him. Aaron Donald's at the end of the line. You're gonna have to face the 49ers probably at some point. You got to face these teams that are gonna attack the middle of your line. So what do? I like the Shaq Mason. They kind of robbed Bill Belichick blind for that. That's a crazy freebie for a 5th-round pick. But center and left guard certainly concern me, especially when Brady hates pressure right up the middle.
Yeah, I'm with you. And there's no there's no doubt about it that they're going to really miss Jensen. The center and left guard position definitely makes me nervous, but I just go back to the fact that their signal caller is Tom Brady, right? And I think that goes right into the second part of the question when you're talking about, are they going to adjust the offense? I do think Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady are going to adjust the offense to the point of Bruce Arians, and he would just say no. That totally. Bruce Arians is a prick, right? Like, he's known for that stuff. It's his way or the highway. I think that's the reason he lost a lot of the times with his really good teams, to be honest. It gets you far, don't get me wrong, but it didn't get him over the hump. And I think even when you look at the Super Bowl year, so 2 seasons ago with Tom Brady, I think after the bye, they went undefeated. And there was talks about how in that bye week, they got a lot of the offensive plays that Tom ran in New England that he really liked, and they started incorporating him with that Bucs offense. So it wasn't just Bruce Arians' offense. It was half of Bruce Arians' offense mixed with the things Tom Brady loves to do. And I think with Byron Leftwich here, instead of Bruce Arians, is going to be more of what Tom Brady likes to do. And I think for that reason, being able to adjust with Leftwich and be able to do more of the things that he favors, I think that's going to help cover up the center and left guard position as well.
Yep. I mean, I don't think they'll miss a beat just because, as you said, Tom Brady's the signal caller. It's just more of something to look at down the line, right? When we get into playoff time and when the games really count, right? Because the regular season is kind of a shoo-in. We assume a Tom Brady-led team, especially with this much talent on the outside and that defense, they're going to win enough ball games. They'll be fine. But looking at playoff time, as I mentioned, when you got to go up against the Rams, the 49ers, even the Packers, if they face them, have Kenny Clark coming up the middle, dominant defensive guys in the trenches that kind of cause them issues. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you as well, Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady. There will be, I think, more unity in that offensive room. And I think there'll be more chemistry, as we both hate Bruce Arians, spot on. As I said, you never trust a guy that wears sunglasses that much. He's just, he's just not that good. It's just what it is, right? We talked about this so much, the amount of QB talent that guy had. But yeah,
I was just about to say that if you go through his QB talent, it's Manning and Roethlisberger and Jameis, who was the #1 pick, and Tom. I'm sorry, it's just so many Hall of Famers.
Yeah, facts. I mean, yeah, I think there'll be more unity in the offensive room with Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich doing more things that Tom wants to do. I think that might have been a big reason why Tom even came back as well, as they kind of gave him the tip. Okay, Aaron's is going to step out of the way. Todd Bowles is going to take over, and Byron Leftwich is going to have full control of the offense, because obviously Todd Bowles, with his defensive background, he's going to give the offense over to Leftwich and Tom. So I think it's going to be fun. Yeah, I think they'll adjust enough. They'll be fine, but it's something to look at come playoff time when you got to face the defending champs and the Rams and those teams with big guys up the middle that can kind of blow Robert Hainsey right off his feet.
We have also just a quick point. We have so much faith in this Tom Brady offense and everything. We just completely glossed over that there's no more Rob Gronkowski. He retired. Of course, he might come back, right? I honestly don't think he will this time around, finally. But I mean, Cameron Brate, Kyle Rudolph, it's more of the same, right? They won't miss a beat.
Yeah, I mean, you got two guys that can catch a couple balls in the red zone. That's really all you need them to do when you have that much talent on the outside. When you're like 6 guys deep on the outside, if Cameron Brate and Rudolph do anything. But yeah, I think the Kyle Rudolph signing kind of nixed any like Gronkowski comeback that I even thought when Gronk did it. I was like, okay, dude, he'll be back. Like, see you in November. Like, we've seen this story before, but I don't think so. I think the Rudolph signing really showed that, yeah, Gronk's probably done with football. But they're not going to miss a beat. They're just, the wide receivers are that good. We didn't even mention Leonard Fournette, even though he got paid, and then he came in like 52 pounds overweight with a beer gut. But they also have Rashad White. But obviously Tom Brady led teams, man. They're going to throw the rock, and it should be fun down there regardless of the center left guard issues and everything else. Really, last question that I have for the Bucs is it goes along with Chris Godwin. Obviously, they brought in Julio Jones, but we both think, I don't even need that's the first part. I think he'll be ready by mid-year. You kind of alluded to, you think he'll be ready by mid-year. It's kind of set, but I mean, will the lost time affect the chemistry? We've seen veteran quarterbacks, especially Tom Brady, when you miss so many games, right? And say he comes out on a heater with Mike Evans and Julio Jones. Obviously Chris Godwin's slot is not in jeopardy by Russell Gage. He'll come right back. Russell Gage will knock back. But do you think that chemistry, you think it'll kind of change how many looks he gets if Brady starts hot with Julio and Mike Evans, and he kind of maybe looks off Godwin a little bit more than you think? Obviously, I think Godwin will come back and still kind of do his thing, but it'll be something to watch if Julio Jones is going crazy the first 6 games, and it's going to be hard for Tom, who we know if he has timing with you and all that, and the chemistry is there, he's going to continue to feed. We saw it with Edelman. We saw it at times with even guys like Danny Amendola, Wes Walker, just guys that he has timing down with. He will continue to feed no matter who the star power is out there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think like no matter how good these guys are, no matter what the star power is out there, I think the timing is going to suffer, right? I think Chris Godwin is going to slide right back into his slot position. Like you said, Russell Gage will move back, but the efficiency I think will be lacking for like a month to a month and a half. But I think the key point here is that month and a half is in the middle of the season and not in the postseason, right? I think the Bucs, like you said, alluded to earlier, they have enough talent. They're going to win enough games to get to the playoffs. So to me, it's about like just getting them back by like the mid-season point, so you can get them into form for the postseason, right? I do think the timing is going to suffer, and I think there could be a month in the season where the Bucs look very vulnerable, especially if Julio gets hurt at one point as well. But it's just when, Tom Brady, number 12, slinging the rock, and it's postseason time, I think they'll be good to go. But I think there will be some timing issues for about a month when he comes back.
For sure. And that's Thomas Edward Patrick Brady, as my man Skip Bayless says. But yeah, I think there will be timing issues out of the gate. It's just natural. But I mean, when they're getting everything, it's scary to say, yeah, like he's going to look off Chris Godwin and the amount of talent that Chris Godwin brings to the table. Let him get comfortable. I mean, good luck guarding these guys. When you get December, January, February, like you got to worry about those 3 guys, and then they can go 4 wide and throw Russell Gage out there. Like, it's just the amount of options that Tom Brady's going to have to throw the football to is just ridiculously scary. And I mean, that'll just jump into the I guess I'll go ahead with my record prediction for the Tampa Bay Bucs. Think we're going to be in the similar territory. I have them going 13-4. I mean, it's hard to bet against Tom Brady, and he's just that good. They're kind of a step above the other 3 teams in the division. And yeah, I mean, if he didn't come back, we'd be looking at something totally different. I honestly kind of envision, or just kind of think about, what would we really be talking about if Tom Brady, if we were sitting here and saying, okay, well, Kyle Trask is throwing the ball around to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. We imagine Julio's not there, but yeah, it's hard to bet against a Tom Brady led team, at least regular season wise. 13-4, they coast and win this division with relative ease.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I got to add a comment that is a really interesting thought experiment, like where this team would be if Tom Brady was simply not on this very loaded roster. They probably would finish behind the Saints, which is crazy to say, but they got Tom Brady. I think they're going to have another great year. I got them going 13-4, 5-1 in the division. And I think at the very least, they have a divisional round appearance again, like last year. But when Tom loses in the playoffs, it's hard for him not to make the damn Super Bowl next year. So I definitely think I'm gonna go out on a limb, really, but I do believe the Bucs and the Rams are the 2 best teams in the NFC heading into the year.
Yep. I don't think it's really, I mean, that's spot on. We'll get into the Rams obviously down the line in a further preview, but yeah, I don't think it's hard pressed to say with everything that, I mean, I don't even know who the number 1 receiver is in Green Bay, and San Fran's coming out, although Kyle Shanahan seems confident in Trey Lance, and I've seen good things out of training camp with Trey Lance. I got to see football games, right? Guys in shorts, I mean, it works to an extent just to kind of see what these guys have, but I mean, seeing them in pads in an actual game, and that goes for Trey Lance. So yeah, I would agree. The Bucs and the Rams, hopefully they're on a collision course to play in the NFC title. I think that would it'd be a heavyweight match that everybody would want to see. But any kind of closing thoughts on the NFC South before we kind of shut this thing down and get out of here and get ready for next week?
Actually, pretty excited to watch NFC South football. I think there's a lot of question marks in other rosters that are pretty interesting. And man, let's see Tom Brady, man, post-retirement tour. Let's see what's up here, because he definitely has the ability to come in and have one of his best seasons ever, which is still crazy to say at 45, but the talent is there on the roster for sure.
Yeah, completely agree. It's crazy. MVP caliber season last year. It was crazy to think him retiring off of that. But yeah, it's honestly it's good to see him back. It's weird. I kind of this end of career Tom Brady, I've kind of learned to like. I kind of enjoy it. He's just that good. But yeah, I mean, that's gonna be a wrap for this one. Thank you for tuning in for today's show. And as always, please like, subscribe, comment if you have any suggestions on what we can improve on. If you hate our takes, if you think the 1-16 Falcons takes sucked, if you're a Bruce Arians guy and you think I was a little bit too harsh on him, dude, post a comment. It's all good. You can even reach us on Twitter at Take3Sports. We'd love to engage on there. As always, the Spotify link will be in the description of this video. And thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with the AFC North.